Hello, I'm here with Joe Wallace. Hello. I'll start off with a simple question. What have you learned from audience feedback? Well, when considering audience and the invaluable feedback they give me, you've got to look first at the research and planning stages of production. I first started using the audience when coming up for an idea of for the short film, just the narrative, and I used a focus group to bounce ideas off other people. As well as hear their own ideas, for their own short films, using them as ways just to, start switching light bulbs in my head. What the focus group did was it allowed me to see that people have different tastes and different pleasures. Therefore, my research into my audience had to be extensive in order to meet the expectations of the relevant audiences. Yeah, and how did you identify your audience? Well, I thought of the film noir genre and the connotations that come with it. I think when you are identifying an audience, you have to play to stereotypes, as often they are the only way for amateur filmmakers like myself to find audiences without pumping, vast amount of funds into research teams. So therefore, I used income and age stereotypes to find my audience, able to, pin the target audience, probably in the middle class. I found middle class adults, perhaps with a greater inclination towards men than women. I thought they would be middle class because I suppose film noir has more sophisticated aspects when compared to a visually stimulating blockbuster, and also cinemas that show independent movies often don't belong to a chain like View or Cineworld, and therefore these exhibitors are maybe a bit more expensive and filter out a certain type of audience. I also thought males would be more likely to watch my film as well, due to there being more male protagonists and a hardline action plot, just showing how I had to follow stereotypes just to be able to, to start tailoring a film to certain audiences. Of course. How would you compare each feedback session for each of your products? I would say they were quite similar in that I always had the same people. My classmates. I feel as a group they were perfect for giving me feedback, as they are media students themselves and therefore had an extensive knowledge of the media industry, film, and what it takes to produce good quality work. I always filmed them in the media classroom immediately after a screening of my product, or with an ancillary on display in the background so they could give their immediate thoughts and criticisms. I think they were all successful, as they were really able to give me the finer details and subtleties that could be improved. What would you say the strengths and weaknesses of the group feedback are? I think the strengths were that it was an opportunity for me to receive neutral feedback on my products. Sometimes I felt I was a bit too close to my products in the sense that I was committed to certain features I liked, such as colour in my double page spread. I really liked this idea of having loads of different colours, but in hindsight, it just wasn't very authentic. And the opinions of my classmates meant that my products were being assessed from a non-personal view. Another strength of my feedback sessions was the diverse opinion that was being shared. It was great that in many of the videos there were opposing views and debates starting within the videos, which allowed me to assess different creative opinions to take and make a better informed decision. And the weaknesses? I think a weakness of them is that perhaps my peers are a little afraid of offending and don't really go to town on what they don't like in my products. I think that sometimes they held back a little and told me my work was good or good enough when there are definitely aspects that could be improved. This was also seen when I did a test screening in front of a larger audience, who are also my peers, but they didn't take media studies. It's frustrating as it was the first time I had access to a new audience, but I felt some of them were maybe a bit timid when giving their feedback. Yeah. What about during the production stages? How did audience feedback influence your decisions there? Well, yeah, definitely. I took initiative and looked on review sites such as IMDb for films belonging to the same genre as mine, as I thought they'd be ideal for identifying what was missing from them, and then implement them into my own film. For example, someone leaves a review saying it could have, had an ending that's more relevant to the star, or colour lighting needs to be stronger for a film or movie. So yeah, this was a great example of how I used audience feedback to better meet their expectations, quite literally. I also used feedback questionnaires to directly ask the audiences what they wanted, and to be honest, it was probably the most effective and efficient way in making changes, as perhaps because they weren't saying their criticisms to my face. They were maybe more inclined to be a bit, harsh. Did the feedback directly influence any creative decisions then? Yes, definitely. For example, many of the feedback sheets said that I think it was the phone call scene in the film needed trimming. In fact, so many said it, I decided to re-record some audio in order to be able to better meet their desires. Also, they did criticise my choice of soundtrack for the final scene, which inspired me to create a more tense score using the application Filmstro. And that was really good, because the ending is the most important part, and if the audience is happy with it, then I'm happy with it. Did you change your aesthetic style in response to audience feedback at all? I did actually, yes. Of the sheets I received back, there was one comment that really stood out to me most. It was saying that they felt the black and white filter that the draft currently had imposed on it, which just wasn't doing enough. Using this, I went back and used the editing software Final Cut Pro to deepen and lighten the filter in different scenes, thus creating a different aesthetic and adding more power to certain moments. Did you ever have a problem deciding which feedback was useful or not? No, not really, because I find that if you ignore the feedback that you deem to be ignorant or not useful, it means you're ignoring the parts of the audiences that are inevitably ignorant or maybe don't have as much media knowledge as other people. And that means it means you're not meeting the expectations of certain people when they could be vital to the success of your film. All it takes is for them, to tell their friends, and next thing you know, you're spiraling towards, bad reviews. In that sense, I found all of the feedback absolutely integral to the quality of the short film. Yeah. And what about post-production? After all of the drafting processes, did you find that the audience was still useful in terms of distributing or exhibition? I did actually, as when I approached, when it came to uploading my film to the internet, I had to make a decision of what sharing website to use. I asked my peers once more, and they found that YouTube was a much better idea than other software such as Vimeo because of how easy it is to share. I asked them if they were more likely to share the video to social media platforms if it was as easy as possible, and the answer was a resounding yes. Therefore, I posted my drafts and my final products onto my YouTube channel. Final question, would you say that your audience feedback was a success? Definitely, absolutely. At the end of the day, people make films for one reason, that's audience satisfaction. Without the audience feedback, I would have been lost. What you want as a filmmaker is completely different to what the audience want, and I feel one of the greatest challenges of making a short film is finding the balance of the two. I also felt I had the optimal audiences for the feedback. The knowledge of my fellow media students was critical, especially when concerned with theoretical knowledge. Often they pointed out how I was and wasn't meeting audience satisfactions in the context of media codes. We saw that because of the mix of modern and past themes in the noir genre, I need to make my characters more relatable in order to counteract the lack of cultural relatability. Thank you, Joe. That will do for now. It was a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine.